Secretary Clinton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Can you tell us a little bit about where we are and why we're here?
We are on the campus of the University of Northern Iowa, and I came here today to roll out a policy about sexual assault on campus. And I chose to come here because they've actually been a leader in trying to figure out how to have a comprehensive system, a fair process, and increased education and prevention. I wanted to come to a place that is trying to really deal with the problem, not deny it, not push it under the rug. 1 in 5 women are affected by sexual assault on campuses, and as you know, throughout our society. So this is a serious problem for everyone, and it's something that I am personally committed to trying to address.
It feels like a bold move to put this front and center in a presidential campaign. Why is that issue so important to you?
That's a really fair question, because usually when you run for president, you talk about the economy, you talk about national security, you talk about some additional issues like healthcare and education, all of which, of course, I'm talking about and have very specific ideas about what to do. I want to be the president who takes on these big issues, whether it's climate change or Syrian refugees or ISIS or anything else. But I also want to be the president who really helps people with the problems that they worry about in their own lives, the problems that keep you up at night, the problems that might be a lack of childcare or a friend's mental health issues or your own substance abuse issues, or certainly, in the case of so many young women, sexual assault, which is real and which affects them, if not them personally, often someone they know and care about. I think a president can do a lot to help set an agenda that is both very big and global, let's combat climate change and let's get clean energy, but also personal and local, so that we can do better together. I really want to see our country coming together and helping everybody be more empowered to make the best decisions they can make in their lives.
There are a lot of voters that we hear from, they're only interested in economic issues and less so social issues. But shouldn't they be thinking about women's issues based on their economic impact?
I do. And economic issues in today's world are, of course, about how we get incomes rising again. That's the very center of my economic policy. How we get the deck to be stacked in favor of hardworking people, not just rigged in favor of those at the top. And I'm laying out a lot of those policies. However, here's what I want your viewers to know, and that is, if you want to grow the economy, if you want it to be fairer and have more people really benefiting from their hard work and their productivity and sharing in the profits that they help to make, you have to focus on women. You have to focus on whether young women, middle-aged women, all women are being treated fairly in the workplace, because when women aren't, that not only hurts them, it hurts their families, it hurts the economy. So when I talk about affordable child care, that's an economic issue, not a social issue. It's an economic issue. When I talk about paid leave, and I point out that we're one of the very few countries, the only advanced economy, that doesn't take into account how much more difficult it is for most women to balance family and work. That's not just a personal issue or a social issue, that's also an economic issue. And certainly when I talk about equal pay for equal work, it is long past time we finally got that fixed. As a young woman or a woman of any age, you should be as right entitled to equal pay for equal work. So these are economic issues, and they're family income issues, and they're advancement issues. I don't want to see young women who work hard, who get their education, who are really out there trying to make the most out of their own lives, to wake up, as so many have in the past, and realize they're doing the same job as a young man hired at the same time, and they're not being paid the same. That's not America. That's just wrong. In a lot of ways today, the economic issues and the social and the personal issues have to be integrated. And that's why in my economic proposals, I talk a lot about how we need to make the workplace work for women.
What do you want to say to those women that feel a little bit afraid to negotiate, a little bit afraid to ask for equal pay?
I understand that. I know that it's not easy. I remember very well the first job I had out of law school, I didn't negotiate. The second job I had out of law school, I didn't negotiate. I was just so happy to have a job and have a job that I thought would be purposeful and give me, some real opportunity to grow. But the more I represented people, the more I was a lawyer for people, the more I saw what was happening out in the work world, the more convinced I became that young women need to follow Sheryl Sandberg's advice about leaning in. Doing it in a smart way, not in a way that's going to cause a lot of waves, but a way which is going to put your worth front and center. I've often said that I've employed a lot of people now. I've worked with a lot of young people in my various jobs over the years. And often when I come to a young woman and I say, I want to give you more responsibility, or we think you're ready for a bigger job, she will say, do you really believe that? Or are you sure? And that's kind of ingrained in us about, wait a minute, are you really talking to me? When I go to a young man and I say, we're looking for greater responsibility for you, maybe a different job, honestly, they will say, maybe not exactly these words, but the message will be, what took you so long? I of course, I'm ready, I'm able. So part of my message to young women is, first and foremost, believe in yourself, believe in who you are. You have a unique contribution to make to the world. We all have gifts, they're all different gifts. And you have something that can make life better, not just in your home, with your relationships, but in the broader world of work, in society, in politics. And so study what experts, people who've been very successful, like my friend Sheryl Sandberg and others, tell you how to do this and how to take that deep breath. It is scary, but to go ahead and take it, to try it out with your friends and just be specific. Here's what I've done. Here is the feedback I've gotten. I really believe that I am the best person to continue this project or this work plan, and I want to be sure that I am paid accordingly. It's scary, but we need women supporting other women too. We need to kind of remove the mystery about pay. In some places, you can't even find out what somebody doing the same job is getting. And so we have to get more transparency and more information so that young women are supported in the risk they feel they're taking and trying to get paid fairly and equally.
One of the resonant things that we hear from our audience all the time is this idea of hope and optimism.
Yes.
No matter what stats are, no matter what the news is, they believe that they can change the world. They believe they're going to live in a better world.
Yes.
What is it about this generation that makes you most hopeful?
I am thrilled to meet so many young women who believe exactly as you are describing, that they are hopeful, they are optimistic, because there has never been a better time in history or a better place in history to be a young woman than in the United States of America in 2015. And I feel that so strongly. So yes, do we have some challenges? Of course we do. We're human beings. We're going to have challenges. But we have to keep working to make our country the place it should be, the place we know it can be. But what really excites me about a lot of millennials is that there's a great devotion to public service. I hear it, I see it. They get involved in all kinds of service activities and projects in their community, at their workplace, on their campus, if they're still in school. So they really do feel the urge to try to improve somebody's life, to try to deal with both small problems here at home, maybe cleaning up a park, and giant problems around the world like combating climate change. So I'm thrilled that that is the ethos that I am seeing when I go to campuses, when I speak with young women in particular. I would just like to connect that with the very real need to be active politically, because I often hear from young women that I speak with about these issues, they love public service, they love to be involved in good causes and charities and all kinds of actions that give them a lot of satisfaction, but they're not so enthusiastic about being involved in politics. And what I try to explain is how whatever individual commitment you have, whether it's tutoring a child or working at a food bank, whatever it might be, I applaud you and I thank you. I'm very grateful. But it's really hard to meet all the needs that we have for all the kids who need to be tutored, all the people who might need extra nutrition, particularly children or pregnant women, without having political change, without having political leaders who will work hand in hand with the not-for-profit sector and the private sector to try to meet the very human needs that Americans have and certainly many people around the world. So don't give up on politics. Don't turn away from politics. Look for ways to become educated, to become involved, to feel that you can see a linkage between an issue or a cause you care about and what could be done by somebody you support, work for, or vote for in politics.
I think running for office is something that requires a tremendous amount of confidence, but also competitiveness to say, I'm going to win this, I can do this, which we see less among women. We see women less likely to run once and then not get the seat and then run a second time. You've done it. Mm-hmm. You've done it as a senator, you're doing it again as president. Have you always had that confidence, or have you cultivated it?
I have not. I, like every other woman that I ever grew up with, any one of my friends, this has been a journey. And I was coming of age just at the beginning of the women's movement, just when all of the options were being discussed. Now, I was fortunate. I had parents and teachers who never made distinctions, at least that I can recall, between the boys and the girls. They expected us all to work hard, do well, and all of that, which gave me a good foundation to believe I could be successful if I tried. But I didn't have any smooth path. And in fact, the first time I was seriously thinking about running for office, I was an adult. It was 1998. I had never thought about doing this before. And I really was reluctant, in fact, resistant. People were approaching me about running for the Senate in New York. And I kept saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry, thank you very much. And they wouldn't give up, and they kept pushing me. They wanted me to run, and they clearly saw something in me that I was not yet convinced of. I kept saying no. And I'll tell you what changed my mind, because there was a moment, and that moment happened at a high school in New York City. I was there as First Lady to help highlight a documentary about American women in sports, American women athletes who had gone to the Olympics, who had won tennis and golf tournaments and swimming contests, all kinds of athletic achievements going back 100 plus years. So we were at this high school, and there were some great women athletes, Billie Jean King and others were there. And I was asked to go make a few words, because I really support equal rights for women, and I supported equal participation in school programs under Title IX. So it was a good event for me to be at. And a young woman who was the captain of the volleyball team introduced me. She was a very impressive, tall young woman. She introduced me. And there'd been all this speculation in the press, like, would I run for the Senate? Would I say yes? All these people wanted me to. And as I came up, I wanted to shake her hand and thank her, because she did a nice job. And so I said, thank you so much. She bent over to me. The name of the documentary was Dare to Compete. And she said to me, whispered in my ear, "Dare to compete, Mrs. Clinton, dare to compete." Honestly, I was momentarily speechless, because she had really kind of called me out, to be honest. I mean, I had been a very strong supporter of women running for office, women serving in office. I had actively helped to recruit women to make those elections, then certainly help them raise money and all the rest of it that you do. And all of a sudden, this young woman is basically saying, hey, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. And it was from that moment in, mid-spring of 1999 that I really began seriously to think about it. And I said to myself, gosh, I don't want to be hypocritical about this. I go around telling women to be in politics. Now people are asking me. I care deeply about all the issues that affect our country. And I'm saying, no, 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 no. And this young woman is saying, hey, dare to compete. And, a few months later, I said, okay, and literally just stuck my toe in the water for the first time. It was really a big challenge. I had supported everybody else. I had never done it for me, and I had to learn.
Does that woman know that she's had this tremendous impact?
I think so. I've written about her and talked about her, and it was one of those real moments of epiphany and change in my thinking.
I do want to go back to Campus Assault for a second. I want to talk about Emma Silkowitz at Columbia. You said of her that image should haunt all of us. What does the plan you want to put in place do for women like Emma?
First of all, there needs to be a decision in our country and on every college campus that any woman who reports an assault should be heard and believed. And there should be a process that is in place, not made up every time that something like this happens. There should be a regular process in place to examine what she is saying, to begin to hear from people, to make some kind of decision that is viewed as fair to everybody, because it does need to be fair to everybody. But too many women like her and too many others feel that they are basically being asked to remain silent, that nobody wants to hear from them and nobody wants to believe them and nobody wants to have the comprehensive services that they need. We have colleges that don't have any services in their health clinics or any cooperative agreements with nearby hospitals, even to treat somebody who's come forth. So there's like a checklist that we're going through that every place should have to be able to comply with. And then when it comes to the process, I mean, I've talked to survivors. A lot of them don't want to go into the criminal justice system. They don't feel that they will be heard or believed there. And it's a very difficult process for so many. So they want to be able to trust their college or university process. But if they choose to go into the criminal justice system, they should be supported by their college or their university. And there are some good programs, there are just not enough of them, and I want to raise the visibility of them, and I want to also do more to emphasize prevention. This starts at an early age. The culture plays a role in this. The messages that are sent to young men, the kind of visual images that are seen all too often, the lyrics of music. We know that there's a kind of pressure or expectation about behaviors that are hurtful. And so we need to do more, starting in high school, I would argue, to begin to change those signals, to begin to try to change the culture. So I've consulted, talked with a lot of people who have been through this. There are excellent leaders, really strong advocates for survivors, places that are doing good work, but it's not knit together. And the Obama administration has begun to, shine a spotlight. I just want to make it a very broad and bright spotlight, and then to really move forward very steadily and urgently to try to meet the needs that are out there.
Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness! Oh my God. I enjoyed that so much, Shannon. We could just keep going. I loved it.
I mean, many more questions.
Yeah. Well, how about to be continued?
To be continued.
Oh, thank you
so
much. I really enjoyed it. You want to get a crew picture too?
Yeah, that'll be
Okay,
wonderful.
great.